The purpose of this video is to get the experimental value of the endpoint for the Neco 2026 titration of sulfuric acid against sodium hydroxide. I prepared 2.7 cm cube of stock sulfuric acid by carefully measuring 2.7 using measuring cylinder. Now, I am about to prepare 4.0 grams of sodium hydroxide by weighing it out using an electrical beam balance. So as I place the crystals, the value of the mass reads on the screen, and this is exactly 4 grams of sodium hydroxide. So the next is to place these 4 grams inside the volumetric flask and then make it up with distilled water. I first add little water and shake well for increased dissolution. I continue shaking so that the sodium hydroxide will dissolve, and then I make it up to the mark on the neck using distilled water. And this is exactly 4 grams of sodium hydroxide per dm cube of solution. Now I am ready for the titration to get the experimental value for the endpoint. Now this is the base. I pour some of the base into the beaker and then take another beaker and pour the sulfuric acid into it. I drop the volumetric flask and the content at a safer place. The next is to rinse the burette with the acid it will hold. This is to ensure that no impurity hangs around in the burette. So I pour little quantity of the acid inside the burette in order to rinse it. I run the acid out. This is the first thing to do on the burette to ensure there is no impurity. And then the next is to run the acid to 0 level. To 0 level means that the volume of the acid is 50 cm cube, and that is the capacity of a burette. It seems the level of acid is more than the 0 level, so I lower it a bit by pouring away a little quantity of the acid. The next is to pipette the base, 25 cm cube of the base out, and run it inside the conical flask. And after this, I add methyl orange as an indicator. 2 drops are okay. And as usual, the methyl orange turns yellow inside sodium hydroxide. And I am now ready for the titration. I start running the acid gradually inside the base. I shake occasionally, watch the acid level lower in the burette, anticipating a color change from yellow to pink. This is the rough titration. You can see the pink color is gradually coming out. It will show up and disappear, show up again and disappear. It continues like that until the right volume of acid that should neutralize the 25 cm cube of the base enter the conical flask, and this will be announced by the methyl orange by its permanent change in color. The color is changing. Finally, it has changed to pink. I take my reading. From here, I got 21.2 cm cube of acid, and I take this first experiment as the rough. Now the first titration after rough. I pipette the base again. I transfer to the conical flask, getting ready with the indicator as the base runs inside the conical flask from the pipette gradually. And then I add 2 drops of methyl orange and the color changes to yellow, and I fill the acid back to 0 level. Okay, this is the first titration after rough. I continue adding the acid inside the base in a drop-wise manner while watching the volume of acid in the burette. Finally, the color has changed to pink again. I take my burette reading. This time around, what I got is 19.50 cm cube. I pipette again for the second titration. I transfer into the conical flask 2 drops of methyl orange, and then titration continues. The color is about to change, and finally it has changed to pink. And then this time around, the Burette reading is 19.70 cm cube. Fortunately, this current reading is concordant with the previous one with a difference of 0.2. I refill the Burette with acid again to zero level. This is the last titration. I prepared the base for the last time, transfer into the conical flask, and get methyl orange ready, and then 2 drops of methyl orange to get a yellow coloration. You can see the color is about to change. That is why I'm adding drop by drop. And finally, the color has changed. Unfortunately, I got the same value I got in the immediate previous one, 19.7 cm cube. And then I am ready for titration table. And at the end of the day, I was able to get the following titration table and also the endpoint for Neco 2026 quantitative analysis.